Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, it was about a week ago that we were all alerted to the fact that the world is going to end unless Barack Obama does something for us to save us. Once again, remember, he came down from above to grace us with his presence and begrudgingly lowered himself to be president of the United States, and he was going to part the seas, walk on water, bring peace to the world, and cure all the racial tensions in the country. Didn't quite work out that way, but he now has to stop the oceans from rising, to quote Al Gore, and take care of all of us deniers before we just flood the cities and the towns and the subways and you name it, because it's all going to happen. White House says just open your window. Open up your window. You can't deny climate change. They don't call it global warming anymore. That's why those rainstorms you see, when the wind blows, when it lightens and thunders, that's climate change, and you're responsible for it because it never happened before. Joining us now to talk about all of this is Rupert Darwall, I should say, and economist, climate change expert, and author of a great new book, The Age of Global Warming. And he wrote a brilliant piece, you did, Rupert, for National Review, Science as McCarthyism. Welcome back, sir.
It's great to be joining you, Steve.
All right, let's talk about this this White House report, which, according to Obama and according to the left, the debate's over. There is no debate. All this 99% of the scientists agree.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, of course, is the context of 15 to 17 years of temperatures not having risen. So we've had a slight shift, as you pointed out, Steve. It's now climate disruption and so forth. But the whole idea of climate change is that global warming drives climate change, and the average global temperature has been more or less flat for 15 to 17 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there is no more global warming, so they refer to it in other terms. But you and I will agree that this whole thing is bogus to a great extent, or to most of the extent. But what's interesting is, and I touched on it with Al Gore many years ago, calling people who don't believe it as deniers. A recent poll of climatologists and meteorologists shows that a majority of them doubt this, don't buy into it, yet they'll tell you the grass is blue and the sky is green, and if you don't believe it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, the big denial that's going on is that year after year, when temperatures haven't risen, the divergence between what the climate models predicted temperatures would be and what Earth is actually doing, what Mother Nature is actually doing, is growing wider and wider. And what you don't hear from scientists, they never tell you, well, by 20 whenever, if temperatures haven't popped back up to where we thought they would be, we have to change what we think about this. That's one message you very rarely hear from any climate scientist.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you and I, again, could agree that the whole premise is flawed, and that's putting it kindly in my view, and that this lie about it being settled science and that 98, 99% of them agree is also a lie in my view. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when science is McCarthyism, I mean, that takes on a whole, I mean, if you don't believe, if you don't buy into it, if you don't yes them to death, if you don't sound the alarm bell and agree that we're all going to drown and die, and don't forget Al Gore, according to Al Gore's predictions way back, we'd all be underwater by now. Then it is the new McCarthyism, is it not?
Yeah, this arose from what happened to a very eminent, highly respected meteorologist, Swedish meteorologist, Lennart.
By the way, I wish I could say that word like that, but all I could muster up is meteorologist. But go ahead.
And he decided to join an avowedly skeptic London-based think tank, the Global Warming Policy Foundation, and it caused a great stir in the climate change science community. And 3 weeks later, it happened last week. He asked the Global Warming Policy Foundation if they would accept his resignation because of the hostility that had been directed at him and the threats made to him by colleagues in the climate science community. And McCarthyism was the word he used in his resignation letter. It's not something invented by me or by journalists or people like us. He used that very term.
You know, you make such great points in your piece at National Review online, and you talk about that evidently the right to practice and discuss climate science should be subject to a faith test. And you also say that it shows how far climate science has crossed the boundary into pseudoscience, and that science regresses if it becomes intolerant of criticism. And all these are so true.
That's right. I mean, what you have is, if you like, a community of believers, and as part of that, you cannot question those core beliefs, and that is, of course, deeply. Science cannot exist under those circumstances, and that's why I suggested that climate science had crossed the boundary deep into pseudoscience. The absolute test of science is verification against natural observations, what nature produces, and they're kind of running away from that. Bengtson had produced this paper that he wrote a paper that a climate science journal wouldn't take, because one of the reasons given was because you couldn't expect models results to be consistent with what nature was showing. Well, if that's the case, what are you left with? I mean, it does become a matter of faith.
You're absolutely right. You know, I believe it was the host, the relatively new host of Reliable Sources on CNN, Brian Stelter. He said not too long ago that networks, and this is a guy who's supposed to be critiquing the media and how they cover stories. He said that they really should, if I have my facts straight, they should not allow dissenting opinions on when it comes to climate change, because it's settled.
I mean, it's an utterly absurd thing to say that climate science is settled. The only thing that will settle it is, well, you have to wait for nature to produce results. And what is extraordinary about this is how few scientists have changed their minds as the evidence has changed. I think you can almost count them.
Whoop. Did we lose him? He could probably get, I know what he was going to say, though. I know, by the way, we're talking to Rupert Darwall, economist, climate change expert, author of The Age of Global Warming, a history, which I hold up here in my hands. And I think he was going to say is you could probably count them on one hand, or two hands, maybe, to be generous. We'll try to reestablish contact, but it's not, you know, it's not so frightening as it is. I guess disappointing, because I'm really not afraid of what these people can get away with. The public is not behind this global warming nonsense. It's not up there. It doesn't register at poll after poll after poll. All right, we do have Rupert Darwall back. Hey, Rupert.
Good to be with
you again.
So
we lost you when you were going to say you could count on. I would think you were going to say
fingers of one hand,
right?
The number of climate scientists who've changed their mind.
Yeah. All right. So where are we headed from here? Where do we go? The public, poll after poll after poll, in this country at least, shows that, you know, so-called global warming, whatever they want to call it, whatever the name du jour is, doesn't register with the American public. It's way down at the bottom on their list of concerns. The House of Representatives will never go along with any of these carbon taxes or anything. The president, though, keeps saying, I have a pen, I have a phone, I'll do what I can on my own. And, you know, through his EPA, he's now effectively killed the coal industry. So I'm just worried about his unilateral actions in taking this further.
What is amazing, I think, is that the Democrat president is taking such hostile action to blue-collar workers and coal miners in particular. I mean, it does show the transformation of politics on the left. It's gone from representing working people to becoming a green movement, essentially, in the pockets of some very large donors, apparently.
Yeah, well, I don't know how far he'll try to go, but I have a feeling he's going to push the envelope as far as he can. And of course, as you well know, no matter what the United States would do, even if there were a problem, and even if it were man-made, based on their premise and claims, as long as China and the other nations that create most of this don't participate, and they said they won't, it's not going to make a dent anyway.
That's the big elephant in the room, Steve.
Yeah,
China and India, developing nations.
I like elephants in the room as long as they're far away from me. Anyway, Rupert, great to talk to you, sir. And everybody, folks, the age of global warming, a history. You really got to get it. You really got to let your kids read it or preach what's in here to your kids. Let them know what's really going on, not what they're learning in school, not what they're hearing in the media, not what they're getting from politicians. And it'll make you and them feel that, hey, there's like a majority of people who believe this way, not that 97% believe the other way. Thank you, Rupert.
My pleasure.
All right, folks. Very interesting and very, very scary, you know, to think that this myth is out there and the coal industry is going. What's next under this guise of global whatever they call it today? All right, you know what's next here. What's next here on the Steve Malzberg Show is the one and only Gimme 5, and it's coming up next right here on Newsmax Television.